welcome back to today's podcast. Thank you very much for being here. You guys, we were gone last week. We were in Fort Worth, so I'm obviously not just traveling to travel. I mean, I did take my family this time. I did a little bit of work, but I had to be nice and I had to relax with them. However, I was down there and I got to visit with my good friend James Nethery. And so if you guys know James and his podcast, then you will get to hear us. He did a podcast with myself. We went a long time. I think he's going to break it up into a couple sessions. However, it was super fun. It was just good to hang out with James. Definitely not enough time. A day or two with James would be awesome. So be on the lookout for that. And I will be sharing that too on my social media and all that good stuff. But it was good. I don't know anybody who lives there. Fort Worth was fun. The stockyards were fun. It was my first time to Fort Worth. And it was all fun. But the traffic is insane. You have to wait to do anything until the traffic is gone. And it's just, it's not my little small town, which I love. All right, guys, today, this is what we're going to talk about. I'm going to go over this book a little bit. Those of you that have read the Farming Without the Bank book, or maybe you're just listening, maybe you're tuning in for the first time, welcome. And you're like, well, I don't want to read a financial book because they're hard to understand. In the last probably 2 or 3 weeks, I have gotten more emails than I have ever gotten at once. Okay. People tell me all the time, Mary Jo, you made it so easy. But in the last couple of weeks, I have gotten a lot of them. Oh, I've read other stuff. I've done research, and you've made it so easy to understand the infinite banking concept. And so that's why I have my readers on today, you guys, because I got to read. I'm going to give you a little bit of a synopsis of what I'm covering in this book, because I can tell you all day long that this is very easy reading, but I want you to kind of get a gist of what it is. And I don't think I've ever done this. I don't know. We're almost 200 episodes in. Why? I have no idea. But let me tell you this first. I did not come from a financial background. Like that or hate that, frankly, don't care. I did not come from a financial background. I was constantly reading finances. I was constantly looking at stock market stuff. I was constantly looking at real estate stuff. I was always doing stuff and reading about it, but I didn't go to college for it, okay? So when I read Nelson's book the first time, when I read Becoming Your Own Banker, which is that book right there, when I read Nelson's Becoming Your Own Banker book, I was confused. I did not get it. And I so badly wanted to get it. And I didn't understand what all of his columns meant. I didn't understand life insurance. I didn't even know what cash value meant. And so how am I supposed to understand a book when it's not explained? And we all know how much I love Nelson. But Nelson was up here at a much higher level. And some people cannot come down to that beginner's level because I think that they're just so intelligent that they can't come down to that level. God did not create every single person to be a teacher either, right? So some people are good teachers and some people are not good teachers. And so and I truly believe that I learn differently. I am a very hands-on learner. I might have to read something 2 or 3 times. Like it is not, I do not pick stuff up just like that. And because of that, I feel like I am a better teacher because I have more patience. I can explain things in a simpler manner because I've said it before. I'm just very simple. I'm very, very simple. don't be using big words. I don't want to have the Webster dictionary handy to talk to you. No, no, that's not how it works. So I want to go over a little bit of what's in here so that you guys understand. If you've not gotten the book, or you've gotten the book and you're scared to read it, first of all, it's 99 pages. Look at how thin that is. If you're on YouTube, you can see. If you're not on YouTube, you can go to YouTube. But it is a very simple book, okay? So the first couple things that we talk about in the book, let me go to my chapters here. I don't read my own book every single day, so I don't remember what they are. In Farming Without the Bank, right, I am going to talk about agriculture progression, where we've come from, where we're going, why we're stuck financially in the agriculture side of things. Why are we not progressing on the finance side, but we're progressing on the equipment side? Okay. Then I'm going to talk about conditioned thinking. That is just how we think, how we are conditioned to think negatively. We are conditioned to think everything is supposed to be really hard. We're conditioned to think that we are supposed to borrow money from the bank. That, as a farmer, that is what you are conditioned to think. There is no other way to farm. You have to borrow money or you're not farming. Okay. Then I talk about use and storage of money. And that is just being an honest banker. Where are we going to put that money so that it is earning us uninterrupted compound interest? And then I go into payments and interest. And we talk about uninterrupted compound interest. And we talk about amortizing interest. And you guys, I make that very simple. I even have a graph in the book that shows it. Very, very simple. Because believe me, I didn't know what it was, right? And then I talk about cash purchases and why cash is not king. How you have lost opportunity cost. Ooh, that's a big word. That is a big financial word. What does that mean? All lost opportunity cost means is if you buy a piece of equipment with cash, you lost the ability to use that money on anything else. It is basically that simple. And I explain this in the book, okay? Very simply, just like I did before. We talk about the bank's control. Why are we continuing to do business with somebody that controls us? Somebody said this, a couple people have said this to me, that once you do business with the bank, you become an employee of the bank. Kind of true, right? They tell you when you have to make payments. They tell you what to do, and everything's nice until you don't do something they want you to do. And then the boss is going to come down on you. That's basically right. Then we go into the infinite banking concept, what it is, who developed it, okay? We talk about whole life insurance. We're going to explain the difference between whole life insurance and term insurance. We're even going to talk about universal life, variable life, indexed ULs, okay? I'm going to explain those. I have a chart in the book or a picture in the book that shows you fees and charges and what those words are and what they mean and what happens to the policy. That's all in here. Very, very simply, okay? Because I didn't know this stuff. I talk about what does the column cash value mean? What does the column accumulative premium mean? What does the column total net death benefit mean? So if you get an illustration from an agent, it might not be the exact terminology, but it's going to be very close, and you are going to know what the guaranteed side of the illustration means versus the non-guaranteed side. I'm going to explain all that so that when you get to the case studies in the book, because there are case studies in the back of this book, And I'm going to show you, okay, if we have an operating note and if we use the policy, this is how it works. And I'm going to show you the money going in and out of the policy and in and out of the bank. Okay, it's all there. Very simple. I don't complicate it by adding interest. Yes, there is interest. Yes, that's talked about in the book. I don't complicate it by that, but I want you to know what all those columns mean before you get to the case studies. Because what good is a case study if you don't know what the columns mean? Okay? This is why people have said, I've read Nelson's book and I didn't get it. This is one of the reasons why I wrote both of my books, is because of the fact that people will read Nelson's book and they don't understand it. But when people read my books and then they read Nelson's books, they get it. Okay? There is another gentleman who I love, Dwayne Burnell, and he has written a couple books as well. So what happened with me is I read Nelson's book, I didn't get it. But I got the first half of his book, but I didn't get the second half. Then I read Dwayne's books, Financial Independence in the 21st Century and Financial Peace something. And you can go to Amazon and both of his books are on there. But I read his books and it was so simple, and he had colored graphs and all the other stuff. The challenge with Dwayne's books is they're very thick. There's a lot of words. And not everybody necessarily wants to read a lot of words. And farmers don't want to read a lot of words, so I made mine a little bit shorter. But with that same concept that, you know what, we have to make this simple, because Nelson also speaks in analogies, and I don't understand analogies all the time. I'm like, I don't get it. Please explain that to me. You know, and occasionally Nelson, with his direct love, would be like, Mary Jo, yeah, I know, Nelson, I know, but I don't get it. Please, could you explain that a little bit better? And then I talk about death benefit. And we're going to talk about the death benefit and the key man policies. We're going to talk about the market, the stock market, and the scam that it is. And there are going to be pictures in the book of the fees and the charges and all the stuff that goes with that. Okay. Again, I am not talking about, and I will go over some rates of return in here, and I will show you what happens when you have an up and a down in a market. Again, very general, very simple, so that you can get the basic of it all. I was listening to a podcast this morning of a guy that is investing in the market and telling, kind of projecting what's going on in the economy and all that good stuff. There is nobody that is not that does not have the knowledge that could listen to that and go, oh yeah, I understand what buybacks are. Really? Because, nobody gets that. Nobody understands that in the market, these huge companies, Apple, I forget the number. Apple sold, they're selling their stock, and then they are rebuying it to make the company look good. Okay. This is done all the time. My friend Barry Dyke, who wrote Pirates of Manhattan, has been exposing this for years. And people do not know what it means. Apple sold and bought back $584 billion of their stock in the last 2 weeks. That's insane. Walmart did 20 million. Microsoft and Costco are also doing it. Roughly $5 million a day of stocks are being bought back. These people do not make it easy for us to understand what that means. And not everybody wants to study it all the time. So, therefore, you have what I call Mary Jo language, and it's just very simple to understand. Okay, so we're going to talk about the market scam, and I'm going to break that down very, very simply for you. What a rate of return is, an average rate of return versus an actual rate of return. Now, I've done a lot of podcasts on each one of these chapters, I'm going to talk about taxes and retirement, what that looks like. Diversification. Are you diversified amongst asset classes, which means maybe I have real estate, I have some farm ground, I have some investments, or do you have all your money in the stock market and it's just in different investments in the stock market? That's not different asset classes. That's all the same class, right? Okay. And then I talk about the life insurance policy and what happens if you're young versus being old. And I'm going to show you in the book that being old does not matter. Actually, the cash value is better. Then we've got the case studies, policy funding and comparisons. All of that, very, very simple. And I wouldn't say that with confidence if I was not constantly getting messages. Thanks for writing the book. I didn't understand. I've talked to 5 different agents and I didn't understand. Yes, I handle my meetings differently. That's a whole different story. But being able to explain it and knowing, like, if I have a husband and a wife and one of them gets it and the other one does not, okay, I'll just keep explaining it until you understand it, because there's a million ways to explain something. And we are not in the insurance world. Here's the challenge. We are licensed. We cannot call a life insurance policy a savings account. It's not. We cannot call life insurance policy an investment. And so many people try to use that terminology because it can sort of relate because it's what we know. But because we can't use it, it seems like it's maybe a little overcomplicated, and it's really not overcomplicated. I mean, after all, you guys, if I can get it, you can do it. You can get it. I know you can. I did. I actually had to, when I first understood this, or when I first was introduced to this concept, first of all, I thought everybody's going to jail. But the more I read, I had to actually go get my daughter's Monopoly money, and I pretended like this is the bank and I'm borrowing money from the bank, and then this is my life insurance policy and I'm paying that back, and how does that work? That I actually did that with Monopoly money because I needed to see it. That is how I learn. Can you still learn by reading the book? Yes. Some people will say, well, Mary Jo, I can't read the book because I don't learn that way. Yes, you will learn in the book. I wrote it for people like me. There are people that learn via audio, right? They can just listen to something like my husband. He can just listen to something and retain it all. I just do not have any idea how he does that. My brain does not work that way. My stepdaughter is the same way. She will listen to something and she will just retain it while she's doing 3 other things. It's utterly amazing to me. That is not me. I have to have 100% focus. I'm going to have to read it twice. I'm going to have to draw it out. I'm going to have to do all the things. But once I got it. And I get it. And then I can explain it. And so please, if you have not read the book, if you have read Nelson's book and you've never quite understood it, if you're looking for a very simple understanding of what the infinite banking concept is, it's going to be either in Farming Without the Bank or it's going to be in Life Without the Bank. Okay. I know you are listening to the Farming Without the Bank podcast. But if you are not a farmer, if you have a family member that is not a farmer, if you want to see smaller numbers, if you have money in the stock market, if you are paying cash for your kids' college, you are going to want this book as well, or just this one over farming. Okay. They're about, I'm not going to lie to you guys, they're about 80% the same book. Now, I actually had somebody say to me not so long ago, they liked the Life Without the Bank over Farming Without the Bank. They thought it was easier to understand. I don't know why that would be. They are not written exactly the same, but they are very similar. But I am sure it was because it was smaller numbers. It was more market driven. There's more on the market scam chapter, all that good stuff. So just know that both of them are very easy. They are meant to accompany Nelson's books. They are not meant to replace becoming your own banker. There is a lot of stuff that Nelson talks about in Becoming Your Own Banker that I do not talk about in my books. And so you should have both of them. If you truly want to understand the concept, you should have both of them, or at least Becoming Your Own Banker. So if you have met with another agent, I got an email yesterday, somebody is shopping around and looking at 3 different agents, and I am one of them. I am not in the job. I am not in the business of entertaining shopping. If you want to learn the concept, I'm here to teach you, but I am not going to entertain somebody that's shopping around. And he said, well, and I told him that in the email because he was very upfront with me and I appreciate that. So I told him, you know what, if you want to learn the concept, I'm happy to help you. But if you're shopping around and looking at illustrations, I'm not your person, because that is not the infinite banking concept. And he wasn't really sure what it was, because he's had such a variety of people trying to share it with him. He's just trying to get to the nitty gritty. If you want to get to the nitty gritty of this concept and you've not read Becoming Your Own Banker, why? If you're a client of mine and you've not read Becoming Your Own Banker, why? I talked to a client yesterday that had a lot of questions that they should have known years ago because they've had a policy for years. And so those questions should have been known, because Nelson talks about it. We use it or we lose it. And if we're not using it, we forget what it is. If we're not continually educating ourselves, we forget what it is. You guys, 12 years I've done this. It will be 13 years next month. And I read Nelson's book all the time, at least 2 to 3 times a year. And I am still finding stuff in that book that I did not read the first million times I read it, okay? You can read my book more than once. You can read Nelson's book more than once. You can tune into these podcasts more than once. Kudos to all of you that have listened to every single one of them, and then some of you that have listened to them twice. My hat is off to you. So don't be scared. The moral of this podcast: do not be scared to dive into this thinking that you are not smart enough to understand it. You're smart enough to understand it. Nobody explains it easy enough to understand. Remember, it is not you that's not understanding. It is typically the teacher that is not teaching it for you to understand it. And I have said this years ago. When I was in high school, I was labeled a learning disabled child. Oh, she can't learn. She can't learn. Yet when I left school, I was learning like crazy and I was reading, and I'm so genuinely interested in everything. Drives my husband crazy. Love everything. I'm always learning. And I'm like, finally, in my 30s, it hit me. I am not learning disabled. I do not have a learning disability. The teachers have a teaching disability. They don't know how to teach to people that don't learn by auditory means. They don't know. They're like, well, I don't know why you didn't get that. There's your textbook. I'm lecturing up here. How do you not remember that? Because not everybody learns that way. You shouldn't be a teacher if you think that everybody does. And our school system, which y'all know, I'm frustrated with half the time. So our school system does what? Says, oh, now you have a disability. We're going to label you. Instead of, how do you learn and how can we teach to that? And maybe that has changed. I have not seen it change with my daughter in school, who learns the same way I do. I can teach her stuff and she gets it like that. School teaches it to her and she has no idea what they're talking about. Why? Because they're not sitting down. And then they get frustrated that you ask a bunch of questions. And let me tell you, I was not scared to ask questions. And it was actually quite funny because here's some story time, you guys. I was in, I think, 7th or 8th grade. And I'm in algebra class. And I'm asking all these questions. And we had this really mean teacher, Mr. Hushka. And everybody was scared of Mr. Hushka. And my maiden name is Freilich. And so he says to me, I'm asking questions and asking questions and asking questions because I don't get it. And I really wanted to get it. It's not that I was not trying. I really wanted to understand. And he said, you know, if you get the cement out of between your ears, you would understand this. Oh, nobody talked back to Mr. Hushka because you were going to the principal's office and it was not going to be a good day. And I said, you know what? If you would actually teach to everybody in here instead of just the smart kids, maybe we would get it. And he didn't send me to the principal's office, and him and I were friends for the next 4 or 5 years. We got along fantastically, and he helped me all the time and never yelled at me ever again. I don't know that I would recommend your kids that are listening to yell at their teachers. I don't know that that's recommended, but I'm a little bit ornery and mouthy. And I had just about had enough being told I was stupid, because I'm not stupid. You don't know how to teach to somebody like me. If you did, you wouldn't be so frustrated. So if I can have somebody sitting in my office that does not understand it, then what? Well, then let's start over and let's re-explain it and let me get a baseline for where your knowledge level is. And then we can go from there and all is good. And the spouse will understand. Absolutely. If you are in my meeting and you look at your spouse and you say, well, you get it, don't you? And they say, yeah. And then you expect me to move forward? That is not happening. That is not happening. We are going to put the brakes on. We are going to rewind and we are going to start over. Because I don't care if your spouse gets it. You don't get to ask your spouse questions. You get to ask me the expert questions. And I want to be able to help you understand that. So, there you have it. I am not stupid. You are not stupid. We just need the correct teachers. And I hope that I have hit that nail on the head for everybody, smart or not. People that are super, super intelligent probably think my book is an absolute waste. Okay, whatever. Go read Nelson's book if you're at that level. There are multiple books out there. Kudos to you. But you know what? I'm here to help everybody. And I have had people tell me, well, that was just too general. Then you're at a different level. That is not who I wrote the book for. If you're at that level, go get nelson's book. And we can still talk because I'm at your level, but I was not when we started. All right, you guys. Christmas is a-coming. So, here you go. There are 3 books. Farming Without the Bank, Life Without the Bank, and Becoming Your Own Banker. If you do not know what to get your loved one, go to withfarmingwithoutthebank.com. Get them as a bundle. You can get them in audio. Go, get them. And then we can visit. And if you need anything, please let me know. Email me, maryjo@withoutthebank.com, and I am absolutely happy to answer. I am absolutely happy to have any suggestions about what to talk about. I always have something to say, but it's not, I want to make it useful. So go get the book. Let me know if you need anything. Otherwise, I hope that you guys had a great Thanksgiving. I missed you by a day, but I hope that you had a great Thanksgiving, and we'll see you in the next podcast.